Hello and welcome to Brighton Dome's International Women's Day 2021. We're obviously not at the Dome, but we are online and really pleased that so many people have been able to join us on what's turned out to be a really lovely sunny day. My name's Kyla Booth-Lucking and I'm the Director of Programming and Participation at Brighton Dome. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Anna Jefferson, a Brighton-based author who's written this rather fabulous book, and is going to read for us today. And then afterwards, there will be a question and answer with Sam Johnson. And in case anybody can't see me, I am a white woman with curly brown hair and I'm wearing a leopard print dress today. I will hand over to Anna, but I will just say, in case you have any children in the room, there are a couple of cheeky words. So if that worries you, you can pop some headphones on, but they're really not that bad. But I really hope you'll enjoy this, and I will hand over to Anna Jefferson now.
Brilliant, thank you, Kyla. So as Kyla says, yes, my name's Anna Jefferson. I live in Brighton. I'm an author. I'm also a mum of two children, 6 and a 9-year-old. And the book that I am going to read an extract from is called Winging It. This is a book that I started to write based on a blog for when I had my daughter. We'll talk about that a bit more later on, but I'm going to come straight in with a reading. And the bit I'm going to read to you is about the main character, Emily, and this is when she has just gone back to work after being on maternity leave for some time. It's about 10:30 a.m. when my milk comes in, which is unusual, as Lucy has had her morning feed as normal, so I don't know why my body has decided it's time to lactate. It must be because Kimberly, who has just sent me a photograph of Lucy, sitting in a high chair, holding 2 plastic spoons covered in what looks like Weetabix, and grinning at whoever is behind the camera. She's settling in fine, the text reads. I ignore the multiple exclamation marks and try and feel relieved that she's happy. I, on the other hand, have spent the best part of an hour staring blankly at a screen, trying to remember my password. The cursor is blinking menacingly next to the statement, password incorrect. The work setup is that I come back on Mondays and Tuesdays, and Simone will work the rest of the week until I take back my 3rd day. Then she'll be out of a job, and I'll have to squeeze what's meant to be a full-time post into 3 days, which, even with my poor maths, doesn't seem to add up. She's left me a handwritten note welcoming me back and outlining the things that she's done. She's also left me a big bar of chocolate and a bottle of Lucozade, and a big bar of chocolate and Lucozade that she said her sister was completely knackered when she came back to work after having her nephew. She's lovely. She's completely lovely and thoughtful and considerate. She probably doesn't swear and takes her makeup off every night before bed. Her handwriting is beautiful and artistic. I imagine this job is just a pit stop for her while she builds up her collection to go into the National Portrait Gallery. I hate myself for being so awful about her. So I aim to eat the entire family-sized dairy milk in one go. 10:47. I'm starting to feel a bit nervous. I've made 6 failed attempts at logging in and now the computer has completely logged me out. I can't remember the number for the service desk. And even if I could, I can't remember my PIN number for the phone, so there's no dial tone. 10:11 a.m. Max rings the IT help desk for me to reset my password. I'm now staring blankly at a very well-organised desktop of folders instead. I am none the wiser. I think you've spilt something on your jumper, Mags whispers as she passes me a tissue. I look down. 2 small rings of milk have appeared on my chest. Shit, I didn't think to wear breast pads. 1:30 p.m. I step out into the sunshine and head out to an overpriced artisan sandwich shop. I sit at an impossibly small table near the window because I can, and enjoy eating on my own. I can't remember the last time I've been able to drink a warm coffee. This is going to be okay. I might even go and have a look around Topshop afterwards. 1:50 p.m. I'm in the Topshop changing room where my next load of milk comes in. What's happening to me? My boobs are ginormous and I've started to drip milk. The tissues Mags gave me are sodden and I've managed to leak onto the pile of clothes I was trying on. I put my jumper back on and hand the assistant a pile of slightly damp clothes and head to Boots to buy breast pads and paracetamol, and I'm starting to feel a bit under the weather. 2:30 p.m. I'm in the disabled leaves at work, attempting to hand pump out some of the milk. My ducts are starting to block and you can see my veins protruding. A thread of milk shoots out of my breast, which I'm aiming at the sink. I massage as much milk out as I can, but it's getting really sore. Trish Lane, the only wheelchair user in the whole of the council, is of course waiting outside the toilet as I leave and mutters about able-bodied people being able to use the toilets on the 3rd floor. I apologise and consider telling her it's because I can't milk myself into the toilet bowl in a small cubicle, but decide against it. It's 3:30 when my 3rd lot of milk comes in. I've had a productive-ish hour of reading spam emails and circulars from the last 6 months, and I've decided that today isn't the day to attempt to understand Simone's list. I'm starting to feel really sweaty. My nipples are red raw and I can feel a golf ball-sized block milk duck under my armpit. Then it dawns on me. Lucy was feeding throughout the night instead of her usual 20-minute feed in the morning and before bed, and my body has gone crackers. It thinks it's feeding a newborn and has adjusted my milk production accordingly. Stupid, stupid body. Does it not know I'm only 2 hours my baby and have no idea what I'm going to do until then? I suddenly feel very cold. John, I call over, are you chilly? No, I'm roasting. He doesn't look up from his desk. This is the most he's said to me all day. I put my coat on and continue to read about the Tunisian prince who would like to give me $4,000 if I email him my bank details. Maybe I should email him John's information, the mardy bastard. So, how are you getting on? Liz is leaning on the back of my chair, reading my screen. Busy? As I turn around in the spinny chair, Liz takes a step back. You okay, Emily? You don't look okay. I wipe the sweat from my forehead on my sleeve with my coat. How can I be sweating and shivering? Maybe go and sort yourself out in the toilet so we can have a catch up afterwards. Thanks, Liz. I'm absolutely fine. It's just a bit warm in here. It's not. Give your face a watch and then come back and find me. Back in the toilets, I look at myself in the mirror. I look absolutely dreadful. I'm grey and blotchy and incredibly sweaty. My breasts are now throbbing and I feel so heavy with milk that I need some kind of extra support to hold them up. I felt like this before, when Lucy was days old. Oh shit, I have mastitis. Who gets mastitis with an 8-month-old baby? I take off my coat, use a hand dryer to dry my armpits, my jumper and my face, and go and head back to my desk. Better? Liz asks. Much. I lie. Are you sure you're up to this? Now, the thing about Liz, she has absolutely no interest in children. In fact, I would go so far as to say she actively dislikes them in a Cruella de Vil kind of way. She made a conscious decision to never have children herself so that she could spend her money on expensive holidays at a Georgian townhouse in Hove. As a consequence, she has no sympathy for any issues that may arise about, with, or because of children. I've seen her reduce women to tears with a lack of interest in their photos of their newborns. So, long story short, I can't tell her I've lactated myself into a fever and I need to go home. But I have, and I do. Would you mind if I just came in early tomorrow and had a short day today? She shrugs, unimpressed. Well, make sure you do. And she turns on her heels. A long bus ride and a short greeting with Kimberly later, and I'm sitting on the bench outside the nursery feeding Lucy. It's excruciating, and I have to bite the inside of my mouth to distract myself from the pain. But 20 minutes later, and I have deflated both breasts and Lucy has fallen to sleep in my arms. This working mum thing is a piece of piss. Thank you. Also, sorry, I forgot to say at the beginning, so I have white skin and brown hair, and I'm wearing a black t-shirt and big silver earrings. So I think now we're going to have a Q&A with Sam.
Absolutely. Come on in, Sam.
Okay, so can you see me now?
Hi, Sam.
Hello. So, yeah, I'm Sam Johnson and I'm Anna's partner on the Writing Around the Kids project, which we'll be doing the workshop shortly. Anyone who can't see me, I'm a white woman with short dark hair and I'm wearing a feminist slogan t-shirt today. So thanks for the reading, Anna. It's a brilliant part of the book, and it's so funny and so relatable. I know that my mum shared it with some of the people that some of the other mums that she'd met when I was a baby. So there's themes of friendship that kind of very relatable through the generations. So I think as well, it's a very special time when you have a baby, but obviously it's incredibly isolating as well. And I think you did a really good job of depicting kind of those feelings. So what was it that made you write about that time, and was it hard?
Well, so the book started off as a blog. I started writing a blog that was called You Can Take Her Home Now, not long after I had my first daughter, Nancy, which is now, gosh, she's 9 now, so 9 years ago. And I started writing it very much to kind of encapsulate those feelings and the kind of like the good bits, the celebratory bits, but also those bits that are just really hard work. And the blog, yeah, it was intended for myself, but then other people started reading it, and it turned out to be a really extraordinary way of being able to kind of connect in with other women. And this wasn't just women that I was already friends with, it was people that I hadn't spoken to for a long time, and also new mums, people who had just kind of come into my life through this connection. And it felt that there was a real mileage in being able to make something that was kind of relatable and personal and honest. And so that's where it started, really. And so, but Winging It isn't a autobiographical book. This is very much a novel. But I would say that a lot of the feelings and a lot of the inspiration comes very much from those early years of having children. So in some ways it came quite easy to write, because it felt like something that was, yeah, very personal, very accountable. But at the same point, it's just been, I think one of the most celebratory things about it has been the connections that it's made as a consequence with women, lots of different women.
Brilliant. And as again, the part you just read about with the mastitis and trying to express in the toilets and things like that, you have written a really very honest depiction of what happens to women's bodies after they give birth. And also you do it with humour, and I think you use humour really well to tackle kind of the uncomfortable subjects. So did that come naturally to you? Was it a conscious decision, or did you have to kind of work hard to build in the humour around it?
I think it's quite a fine line with a lot of the things to do with parenting, where you can feel in utter despair, but actually some of the points are just completely hilarious as well. So I think also it's the way that we're connecting with each other is through humour. I think I certainly do as well. I think we'll all kind of appreciate over the last few months as well, that fine line between kind of laughter and crying.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so it was I guess it was conscious to write it with humour, but it wasn't intended to be a kind of a funny book. But yeah, some of the things, as I say, there are kind of moments that are based to some extent from personal experience. There's a bit at the beginning of the book where it starts when Emily is in labour.
Yeah.
And her boyfriend is taken out of the room for a short period of time, and comes back and he's dressed fully in scrubs. And I really remember that happening through my own labour, of my partner not being there and then coming back and thinking, what's happened? Like, where did he get dressed like that? And
he's in fancy dress.
yeah. So this is very much kind of like an ER moment. But I think as well, by using humour, you can often tackle some of the bigger subjects as well. I think that there are moments with early parenting which are extremely lonely, and there are points where, yeah, it is a hugely rewarding, really, really difficult job to do, parenting children. So I think with humour, you can kind of approach some of the things that maybe if they were taken very seriously, it might feel like quite heavyweight subjects to be able to kind of talk about.
I think there's a part as well where Emily's kind of saying that she's literally just met someone and they're already talking about, you know, their labour and episiotomies and all of that. And it's like that kind of, I suppose, the rawness that you go through as a woman when you're giving birth, that it kind of strips a lot of the, I don't know, social etiquette and stuff away. You become just a different version of yourself.
No, I completely agree. I think that when you've gone through something as kind of life changing as that, I think there's kind of a shorthand as well. And I think I wanted to really show that through the story as well, that there maybe isn't that time to be able to kind of go through all the niceties and the pleasantries that you often go through early stages of friendship. It's just straight in there with the, I'm feeling like this, is anybody else? And you've got your group of people that you might end up WhatsApping in the middle of the night. And I imagine that for women who have had children during lockdown, that must feel more important than anything else, that you have that way being able to build up that network around kind of your experience and being able to relate to other people as well. But yeah, I think that there's a kind of an intensity to those friendships which is like nothing else.
Yeah, that they just carry you through, for sure. That's what I mean. My next kind of question was talking about the one of the themes being female friendship, definitely, and you know, I think it comes very naturally to want to explore female friendships, as we were just saying at that time. What you in the book that wasn't mentioned in the part that you've just read, but you also kind of explore Emily's female friendships from when she was a teenager. So did that come quite naturally as well, to want to kind of reflect on female friendships that she had when she was younger, and kind of comparing with the ones that she's experiencing as a new mum?
Yeah, so the book's kind of a dual timeline. It's set for Emily from her first year of parenting as a new parent. It's set against the backdrop of growing up in 90s Lincolnshire, when she was a teenager, and a strong, a really powerful friendship that she had when she was younger. And I think part of it, the thing that really, really struck me was that when you become a parent, when the really early stage of becoming a parent, it's almost like a kind of a second coming of age. So you think you know yourself and you know what you like, you know where you like to go out, you kind of have a sense of routine about your own life around work and socializing, whatever it might be. And then you bring home a newborn and then just everything's thrown in the air and your life gets very small again, and it takes, you know, you kind of like gradually reintroduce yourself back into the world that feels kind of much bigger and scarier. And I was thinking about, so it's that kind of, yeah, that second coming of age of being able to work out how your place in the world. So it felt quite natural to then reflect on what that's like when you're a teenager and when you're trying to kind of, yeah, fight for your place in the world and work out what it is that you want, what's important to you, and also those powerful female friendships, how that they can carry you through, you know, for decades, for your life. And so I think this, yeah, I think female friendship is the kind of thread that goes throughout, because I think it's often the women that end up holding each other up and supporting each other and scooping each other up when you need it. So yeah, it felt like a very obvious reflection to have when you're younger against now.
Yeah, definitely. And then your second book, Nailing It, is about to come out quite soon, beginning of April, and that it's kind of carrying on some of the characters that you've had from Winging It. So you've got Emily, obviously the main character, and the mum friends that she's made, Tanya and Helen. And it's them kind of navigating the next sort of stages of motherhood. And I just wondered, is that kind of reflexive in your own experience with the children kind of as they grow up, and how the friendships might change and the struggles that you have at different stages? Yeah,
so the second book, Nailing It, to say, is coming out at the beginning of April. and that focuses on the three characters, Emily, Tanya and Helen, 5 years on, so when they all have 5-year-old children. In terms of, without giving too much away, the book is taken from 3 different perspectives from the 3 main characters, and the different things and the different challenges that they're facing now. And so there are themes around separation and aging parents, and also having that point where your children are that little bit older, and kind of like, kind of working out how all that works, but also how important those friendships continue to be, and and also that you still have that kind of shorthand to each other in terms of support. But the power of those friendships, yes, it's still very much apparent in the second book. And I think that it felt important to me that these characters who had developed through winging it, that they were revisited in a different way later on, because yes, the things that you kind of have to deal with change and shift, and some things get easier, but some things don't, or just the kind of like challenges shift and change a bit. So I really wanted to kind of reflect on that in nailing it, and it was a real joy actually to go back and think how these women would think when their children were a little bit older. But yeah.
Anna and Sam, it's just Kyla dropping in here.
Hello.
A few minutes
Hi, Kyla.
left. Hiya. We've got a few minutes left before the end. I'm just wondering if you wanted to briefly answer any of the Q&A questions, because there's a couple of goodies in there. Are you able to see them?
I can't see them, that's what happened, sorry.
Aha. So we've got one from Helen, who was saying that she loved reading all the details from when Emily was first trying to leave the house or going back to work. And did you find that kind of therapeutic or enjoyable to write as a mother? And there's another sort of slightly similar question about, how does reading it now, does it transport you back to those early years?
Yeah, so I don't know whether I found it easy to write, because I think some of those things feel extremely emotive, but it felt quite cathartic to do, I guess. I think reading back through the book, it just takes me straight back into those kind of early moments. I think that as human beings, we have a way of being able to forget and move on, to be able to kind of like as a massive coping strategy. So I think a lot of the very early stages, I think my brain has purposefully blocked out. So I think going back and rereading them, I think, gosh, yeah, that is, that whole time was just extraordinary, and brilliant and beautiful and messy and knackering, and just such a range of extremely intense emotions that you couldn't carry that level of intensity throughout life. I think you'd kind of implode. So yeah, it's quite refreshing to go back and read it, but also quite heartening to not be in that position now. And I apologise profusely if I'm saying this to also people who are watching who have very young children at the moment as well, because it's also wonderful, of course.
And another one was Lorna was asking, at what point after having your daughter did you know that you had to write about those experiences?
Almost immediately, I'd say. I think I've written I've worked as a writer for years, so it felt like the very natural way, being able to digest those kind of big emotions, as I say, and those kind of feelings and those events. So it felt very normal to kind of record it, not necessarily in a fictional way, but in terms of being able to have a way to be able to contextualize it. But that said, I wonder when my children are older, what they'll feel about if they read it. So, I've kind of tried to keep as much distance, and as I say, it is very much a work of fiction, but yes, it'll be interesting if they ever do decide to read it, what they think.
I know that a friend of Nancy's was saying that, had told Nancy that she'd read it, and I'm not sure how much truth there is in that, but I was wondering what she would have made of it at 9, kind of reading that.
Yeah, so my one of my daughter's best friends, her mum had bought the book, and apparently, my daughter's friend has read it, who's also 9. So
that could make a really great World Book Day costume.
We've
got just a couple of minutes before you both need to leave and head off to your workshop session. I'm going to post a link to that in the chat. If there's anybody who's here listening to this and is interested and intrigued about writing around the kids is the theme of the workshop, I'll pop that link in the chat, and you don't need to register. I believe that the link will just take you straight to the workshop. But and I've just checked, and there doesn't seem to be any other questions that come in. So I suppose, is there anything that, Sam, you wanted to ask as a last hurrah in the moment?
Yeah, I think my last question, I suppose, is because I'm a writer myself, but in the time that Anna's kind of managed to write, nailing it, winging it and nailing it, and is kind of working on a 3rd book, I'm still working on my 1st, because there never seems to be time to fit it in around the kids. And how do you do it?
I think I'm probably fueled by a tremendous amount of coffee and kind of blind adrenaline, I think. I don't think, yes, I think it has, as our project also says, Sam, it has been a matter of just kind of slotting in and writing around the children, and there has I would say that there hasn't been a formula at all, and so yes, sometimes it feels like it works really well, and other times I'll go back and read something and think, God, that makes absolutely no sense at all. So yeah, there is no hard and fast formula. I'm not entirely sure how I did it.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anna.
A pleasure.
Well, in that case, I'm going to wrap up there and say thanks ever so much to Sam, and especially to Anna, and everyone who's joined us here today. And just to let you know that there are still some videos and a really beautiful film about women in midlife, and also a film recording of the telephone play that we've had going on today. That's all on you can get the links on the Brighton Dome website. I'm just about to put the link in the chat box. But otherwise, I will ask you all to share any comments you've got on social media, or you should get a follow-up email from this with my email address. So you can also email me direct if you have comments, suggestions, or anything you want me to pass on to Anna or Sam. And otherwise, say thank you ever so much, and have a beautiful rest of International Women's Day with Brighton Dome, and the full day, which I believe is on Tuesday. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Kyla. Thank you,
Bye.
Brighton.